It's Ziant again, and this is some more Titanfall. The beta will be over by the time this video goes live, and I hope that those of you who got a key or on Xbox One and were part of the open beta, I hope you really enjoyed your time with the game. I know that I did, but I was watching some videos of some other games, and one of the complaints people are having, and it's a legitimate complaint I think, is that Titanfall is too easy. I know some of my friends in the company are thinking it's too easy. Puppy, I know, does. Culprit sees it, I think, is more of a casual title. And for the most part, I would say that that's true. It is a very easy to pick up game. Now, what we don't know yet, and I don't know when we'll know it, but people are getting the feeling that the skill ceiling for this game is actually fairly low. Once you get to a certain level, you won't go any higher. There's no way to get better at the game. Your shot won't get any better. Your control of the weapons won't get any better. Your control of the Titans, I should say. None of that will improve because there's no improvement to be had. And I think it's especially true if you're good, and I mean actually good, at a game like Counter-Strike or Team Fortress 2 or Quake or Unreal. These are the type of games where you can be good, but there are thousands of people who will look at you and say, "Oh, you can do that? That's adorable. I can do this." And then they'll pull some crazy shit that you'll be like, "How the fuck did you do that?" Because they've had so much more time in the game. And I think that Respawn, who came from Quake, I think a lot of the Respawn developers back in the original Medal of Honor, not the 2010 Warfighter version, these are the guys who came from Quake, who came from Unreal, who came from the really early shooters, Counter-Strike, for example. I know, example, for one of the level designers, he did Counter-Strike maps before he was even brought on to the old Infinity Ward. But they set out not to make a game that would necessarily, I should say, reward high-level play. A game like Titanfall is a game that's easy to pick up, easy to finish. Puppy said that someone he knows picked up the Xbox controller and he said to them, "You know what, go ahead and give this a shot and you'll see how you do." This person went 15-5, and by his own admission, they're not very good at first-person shooters. And 15-5, while a respectable score, is not as high as it could go, certainly. I mean, I've pulled off better than that, but again, it's respectable, and for someone who is not good at first-person shooters, then yeah, I think there's something to be said for the ease of use in this game. But the real point that I've been trying to get to for 3 minutes now is that Respawn is fully aware of the game they were trying to make, and Titanfall, as a product, is perfectly aware of the type of game that it is. It is an easy to pick up, easy to play, not necessarily hard to master shooter that will make a lot of money for a lot of people and will cater to people like me who have attention spans the length of a squirrel's. Which means if there's not something to shoot at every 5 seconds, I'm bored out of my skull, and if I die and am punished for dying severely like I am in something like Counter-Strike, then I'm not having much fun. And I've said it before, I don't play Counter-Strike at any significant level, not necessarily because I don't like the game, because I have moments of brilliance in a game like Counter-Strike. I have moments of brilliance in a mod like Pro Mod that is Counter-Strike level difficulty in a Call of Duty game. But the trouble for me is that it takes 100, 200, 300 full hours of grinding and getting your ass absolutely handed to you and doing some actual physical training, going into deathmatch and just seeing what you can do. A lot of Counter-Strike players at the competitive level have said, not to me, but just in general, that if you want to get good at Counter-Strike, you play it a lot, which I'm perfectly happy doing. I enjoy Counter-Strike. But then they say you have to go into deathmatch and work on your headshots and spend 100 hours in deathmatch going for nothing but headshots. And that's just with one weapon. If you want to be actually competitive, and I'm talking about esports level stuff, at Counter-Strike, you need a couple thousand hours a tenth of which is with each weapon you're going to be using. So 200, 300 hours with the AWP, 300 hours with the AK, 300 hours with both M4s collectively, which is, we're already at like 800 hours. You're gonna need about 100 hours with, say, the MP7, another 100 to 200 hours with a few of the pistols that you can use, and then just another 100 hours learning the maps at this very intrinsic level. And what I'm getting at with this is that Titanfall isn't trying for that. Respawn and the product itself are perfectly aware that people are not playing this game for that level of intensity. Is it built for casuals from the ground up? Probably in part. I would say that there is certainly some depth to Titanfall that we haven't seen yet, simply because we haven't seen the full game. I'm not going to make the excuse, oh, it's just a beta. It's more of a demo. We've been giving a sampling of what the product has to offer, the weapons, the maps, the Titans, and all that, but we have not seen the full product. We haven't seen the depth of weapons. We haven't seen the number of maps. We don't know if there's much in the way of things to really learn. So while I think a lot of these judgment calls about, oh, it's a game for casuals, there's not a lot of depth, the skill ceiling's really low, I think that there is merit to these arguments, but I think that final judgment should be withheld until we've seen the full game. Now, I will say that I think those predictions are probably going to be true, because games like Titanfall, with an unlock system that rewards consistent play, where there's a metagame where you're always trying to go at something, trying to collect something, it's like Pokemon, you're always trying to collect all the burn cards, all the Titans, all the weapons. Yes, I think there is an element of casualness to that. But at the same time, I get this very distinct feeling that there's a lot more to this game than we've seen, and I don't mean that in a humorous way, I mean it in a more design philosophy, in a game mechanics way. Now, of course, we have things like the Smart Pistol, and we have things like the amped shotgun, which, don't get me started on the shotguns in this game, because the maps, as big as they are, still offer these very close quarter level combats. Yeah, I mean, a shotgun that has almost the range of the Spaz 12 and the damage of the Spaz 12 motor for 2, but is semi-automatic and can fire really, really quickly, or the Smart Pistol, which is just like aim in their general direction and they die? No, something like that, that does not offer a lot in the way of skill ceiling. Those weapons are built for people who can't aim, who would rather sit in the back of the map and snipe or spam something than actually do something worthwhile. But again, we have not seen everything Titanfall has to offer. And if I look at the competitive scene in Call of Duty, which is technically Titanfall's closest cousin, and I call them cousins because because Respawn was once Infinity Ward, or part of it, and it's about as twitchy and fast as the early Call of Duties, and it's a first-person shooter, and I can classify those all into their own groupings. I would say that if I look at the competitive level of Call of Duty, I think that utilizing unlikely tactics and the weapons that are decided on it and the rules modifications that occur at the competitive level of games like Call of Duty and like Battlefield, I think if you jury-rig the game a little bit, you can give it a much higher skill ceiling. I think out of the box, all these people claiming that it has a low skill ceiling are probably correct. And I would agree that my very first game, which I will probably be bringing to you at some point, and I went 12-3. Normally in my first games, I go almost negative, if not fully negative. So what do you guys think? Based on your time in the beta, or if you weren't in the beta, what you saw of it, what's your take on the casual versus competitiveness of Titanfall? I want to thank you guys for all watching, and I'll see you, hopefully, in some more Titans here soon.